The country's leader, Hafizullah Amin, was preparing to welcome guests at the presidential palace. But instead of a diplomatic visit, he was met by units of the KGB. The Soviet Special Forces carried out a total purge. All women, children and officials in the palace were killed. This marked the beginning of the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan. Under the pretext of fighting the Mujahideen, Moscow waged a 10-year war that claimed up to 2 million Afghan lives. And that was far from the end. In true KGB fashion, Russian agents created their own version of the agency, KHAD, a tool of terror against the Afghan people.
We do not want to speak with the regime in Kabul. We will persist until the regime is gone, as no Afghan supports them.
Before the Soviet arrival, Afghanistan's intelligence was handled by the Organization for Security and Intelligence. The new regime in the capital called for a full overhaul. The State Intelligence Agency, KHAD, was established. The agency's creation was described as follows:
to protect democratic freedoms, national independence and sovereignty, the interests of the revolution, the people, and the country. Also, to neutralize external enemies under the leadership of the People's Democratic Party of Afghanistan.
In reality, the agency was meant to suppress the PDPA's internal enemies. Researchers estimate that 60% of the party's members were military or KHAD informants. The agency's methods were indistinguishable from those of the KGB or the Stasi. It functioned as a secret police force, monitoring every aspect of Afghan life. KHAD agents, alongside their Soviet counterparts, even controlled education in schools and colleges. They actively recruited young men into law enforcement. The Afghan public viewed them with outright disgust. No one spoke openly. Suspected disloyalty could mean execution. Only the Mujahideen dared challenge the communists and their agents.
What are you saying, you swine? Say that again.
Moscow saw advantage in running its own agency in the occupied territory. KHAD agents were tasked with shaping a new generation loyal to the Soviet Union. They operated even in villages, promoting support for the regime. They targeted religious minorities. Afghan Hindus and Sikhs were placed under close surveillance. As for Muslims, KHAD funded the Directorate of Religious Affairs, which recruited individuals to spy on mosque congregants, and even on imams, who held significant influence over the people. All of this unfolded in parallel with the war.
They only know how to fight, but they have no idea how to hold territory. Even I don't know how to do that. I've never been a soldier. I had only 2 days to learn how to launch rockets and fire a machine gun. And yet, we are holding the territory.
Moscow's arrival brought Mohammad Najibullah back from exile, an Afghan politician whose loyalty to the regime made him KHAD director. Under his leadership, the agency became a true instrument of terror. People feared speaking, as neighbors or friends could be department informants. True, after the withdrawal of Soviet troops from the country, fate played a very cruel joke on Najibullah. The Afghan intelligence agency drew the most attention from the organization Human Rights, primarily due to its inhumane treatment of prisoners. Anyone captured by KHAD, even on slight suspicion, faced torture. The agency ran secret prisons at its headquarters and across the country. Have you ever seen what Afghan prisons look like? Like this. What conditions could one expect in a torture site, especially in the 1980s? These facilities were built solely for killing. There was even a division called the Central Interrogation Bureau. The most notorious prison of the communist regime in Afghanistan was Pul-e-Charkhi. KHAD agents and their Soviet handlers executed 27,000 prisoners. Mass graves with hundreds of bodies are still being uncovered across the country.
Killing prisoners in war is counterproductive. For instance, during my diplomatic mission in Vietnam, a similar story emerged. This is war, and such things are sadly common.
In 1985, Soviet agents used Afghan special services to stage terrorist attacks in Pakistan. Over 2 years of bombings, nearly 400 people were killed. And that was only a small part of the larger Kabul-Islamabad conflict. Moscow had both sides under its control. And who's to say it is not still doing so today? Yes, the label of a terrorist state will remain attached to Afghanistan for a long time. That is the legacy left by KHAD agents and their Soviet supervisors. It has long been known that Pakistan either independently or through other countries finances, trains and supports terrorist groups. And not only Pakistan. Afghan security agencies in action stemmed from Moscow's influence. Over 10 years of Soviet war, a once effective security agency became a tool of terror, a guard dog for the communists, not a check on the regime.
UN Resolution 1373 states that no country may support terrorism or its preparation. But how, then, are we killed daily by suicide bombers arriving from Pakistan, from Islamabad itself? And this is the fault of global leaders. What's the point of a resolution if no one enforces it?
Let us return to KHAD. When Soviet troops left Afghanistan, they took key documents on their role in creating the agency. As a result, little is known today about KHAD. The key documents remain sealed inside the Kremlin. And who knows when or if it will ever be declassified. At the time of the Soviet withdrawal, Afghanistan's president was still Mohammad Najibullah.
6 months have passed since the Soviets left. Yet the war has shown that Afghanistan's problems persist. A new war will only cause more death and destruction. The best solution is to start peace talks as soon as possible.
However, he failed to gain trust among people. Najibullah lasted in the chair until the 1992. It was difficult to maintain the regime in a country without the USSR, and the regime still fell. Then he had to hide in the building of the UN mission for 4 years. Everything might have been fine until one monster left and the Taliban took its place. They did not just come, but completely changed the consciousness of the country. KHAD agents were powerless against the Taliban. The terrorists despised them. They stormed the headquarters, torched it and destroyed most agency records. Meanwhile, they terrorized civilians, intimidating, threatening and brutalizing them.
They were ruthless, attacking journalists, persecuting women, burning homes and presenting themselves as pure evil.
They also paid a visit to Najibullah himself. Taliban raided the UN compound and abducted him and his brother. 3 hours later, Mohammad Najibullah and his brother were found dead. Taliban dragged the living politician 2 kilometers behind a jeep. They beat him and hung his body with wires near the palace. The terrorists justified their actions by saying, "We killed him because he murdered our people." That is one version. The Taliban reportedly asked Najibullah to sign a document recognizing the Durand Line between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The politician was tortured for not complying with terrorists' demands. That's why some Afghans see the former president as a hero, despite the terror KHAD agents caused under his rule.
For Pakistan, Taliban control in Kabul offered many advantages, such as the restoration of trade routes to Central Asia. By dealing with the Taliban, Islamabad could try to control the opium, heroin, and weapons flows that destabilized parts of Pakistan.